Hey, y'all, welcome to the Career and Technical Education Podcast. I'm Brandon Grace, and I'm here with
Randall Hust.
And I'm Marcy Ventle.
Marcy. We're glad you're here this week with us. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a Lubbock native, and I spent about 10 years teaching a variety of classes in the high school setting. Started off with some business classes, and then I entered into teaching advanced plant and soil science, something that I really like, and it's part of my undergrad degree. But what I'm really the most proud of is having taught video game design and worked in IT, taught some graphic design. I just have a wealth of experiences from high school. So it's been a blast. Today, I work as a career and technical education coordinator. And so what I do is help teachers who have problems on the backside. I connect them with resources, work in classrooms. And so I don't have to be like the face of an organization, but I can be a little bit of that wizard in the back that helps people get things done.
Awesome. Yeah, and like I said, we're glad you're here. You work with Randall.
I do.
Y'all are work colleagues, and y'all make a dream team, as Miss Baker would call y'all, because y'all are both knowledgeable and awesome in what y'all do, and y'all care. That's the biggest thing. So
It's funny, she said the wizard in the back. You have no idea. Like, she's the one that's pulling the strings. She's Oz, making things happen. And teachers are like, how did y'all make this happen? Like, it's all Marcy.
it's the wizard in the back.
Yeah, I'm really good at sweeping and stuff like that.
You're good at cleaning up messes. You're good
That's
at
it.
yeah.
He's downplaying his skills. And I could say that because I mentored him when he came into education. So yeah, he's really downplaying it. But yeah, we've known each other quite a while.
Yeah.
All three of us, really.
Yeah, we've all worked together for years.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. All right, so your specialty right now is in IT and in that whole career pathway, and there's lots of new things that we're trying in Lubbock ISD to grow and to especially whenever it comes to computer programming. And tell us a little bit about things that we're doing with computer programming, cybersecurity, those types of things in Lubbock ISD.
Great. So currently our district serves 5 high schools, and finding enough computer science certified teachers to teach that many programs is really difficult. The test is hard, and you have to have somebody who has the skills to work in IT, but is willing to move into education and give back to a community and understands that value. So what we've done very recently is make a decision. It's a very hard decision, but we made a decision to move programming into our technology center here in Lubbock that helps serve camps at all campuses. And that's something that's a little scary, right? To change a program in a big way. But we're hoping that it works out really well, and it provides an unprecedented level of equity for students in being able to learn by centralizing the program. We've typically focused on an AP program, which is Java-centered. If those of you that are out there speak languages and you're talking about programming languages, Java-centered programs have been around in AP for a while. And Java is a great language for AP. It focuses on security. It's robust. You can learn a lot of things related to object-oriented programming. It is the basis for a strong AP curriculum. But what we're finding is that students find the terms like computer science a little intimidating. And they look at the classes and they think, I want to do that, but I'm not sure if I can, if I'm sure if I have a math background for it. So what we're doing is we're changing the face a little bit. We're looking at calling it computer programming, and we're looking at including more exposure to languages like Python, which are used by companies like Amazon. In addition to their high-level programmers and systems engineers, they're able to use Python for lower-level scripting tasks that entry-level programmers can come in and use. So we're doing that, but currently we offer a 3-year program with a practicum opportunity in computer science. Soon it'll be computer programming, and it'll be available for everybody. So that's kind of where we're at today.
I love the equity part of it. You know, with having 5 high schools, especially classes like computer programming. You know, sometimes they don't fill, or they have to offer them, but they obviously they don't make. And so for an entire school to not have the opportunity to access some of these programs, bringing them here to our career center, while it is a tough decision, like you said, to change things up from an equity standpoint, it just opens up access to so many more kids. So.
You're right, Randall. It really does. And speaking from the administrator side of things, maybe instead of the teacher side of things, it's so difficult to find people who are experts from industry who can come in and just walk in and become an educator. We always say they have 2 buckets. They have a content bucket and they have a pedagogy bucket. And so we have to work really hard to teach them to be teachers. And then finding enough of those people to serve everybody's needs at every campus is difficult. So I'm very thankful that we have the opportunity for a career and technology center here at the ATC.
For sure.
So, I'm an IT teacher.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I was
wait. The
oh Lord,
ACTE National Teacher of the Year,
Trade Industrial.
Trade and Industrial Teacher of the Year. He's not just an IT teacher. He's Brandon Grace.
I'm
Yes.
so glad you brought that up because that is like the
Absolutely.
biggest news here this
Absolutely.
week. And I'm so proud of you. Fantastic job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those things. Whenever I've been up for other awards over the years, but I've never won anything. So,
For sure, yeah.
and whenever they call my name, I was like, what? And it was it was really great to have. I had Ann Archer, our principal. She was
Yeah.
there, and Elizabeth Roop from the TV station. She was also there to
Cool.
to support, and it was really a cool experience, and it was cool to all those other people, and there's some amazing teachers out there, and I was up against 6 other finalists, and those other finalists were really great. And
Well deserved, man.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Very well deserved.
thank you. Where was I going? Oh,
You're an
Sorry.
IT teacher.
Sorry,
I'm an
sorry.
IT teacher.
The IT teacher,
The
yeah.
IT teacher, whatever. So I teach IT and so computer maintenance and networking, and I've always had students that come from the programming class or programming pathway. Because they want to know about the computer hardware and the networking hardware and all those things. And that was whenever we had this, we were talking about, how do we want to make sure that that computer programming survives and makes it through, and we're able to continue to offer those programs. How do we do it effectively and all that? And my biggest fear is watching the program die. How do we make it more of a exciting thing for the kids these days, and how do we make it to where we will get more kids in there to make sure that we're meeting that need of high demand, high paying jobs that are out there. So that was part of the discussion, and moving it over to the Career Center over at the ATC, I think it'll help because we have 2 high schools that have never had programming, and we're reaching those kids that have never had a chance to do that. And I think it's going to grow the IT cluster quite a bit, and it'll grow my classes for sure, because it's the same nerds that go back and forth.
Well, that's we call geeks.
No, well, it's the nerdlings, it's like the gaggle of geeks. They're my kids, and and I know them, but in some of my programming kids are my most awesome because it's what they live for. Right. And I'm really glad that we decided to come up with something to help make sure these programs survive and in industry, because it's in the future. These programs are going to be needed in all the things that are coming out, and we've talked about this. We've worked with drones and all that, but there's a lot of other technologies that are out there that are going to be affecting schools in the near future. What programs do you see coming up?
Oh, that's a really great question. One of the things that that was in my mind as you were talking to speak from a policy standpoint is in Texas, when you're looking at those programs of studies, we are now moving computer programming and cybersecurity back over into the IT cluster and reducing STEM to that engineering side. And so that's a little bit exciting in my mind because it puts our IT together in a strong way, rather than it having it be a smaller component of a larger program of study, a larger cluster there. So that'll be really exciting to see the effects of that. But also, when you're talking about making things interesting, we start earlier, right? So one of the things that we're really proud of in Lubbock is the ability to offer IT and programming, engineering, and robotics to our middle school students. And one of the challenges that we looked at is like, man, programming is exciting, but it's not exciting when it only lives on a screen and when all you can see is maybe some scratch blocks or you can see some lines of code in an IDE. It's hard to make that tangible sometimes. And so we've brought drones and we have purchased Sphero robots. So we can say, here's something that moves and it makes sound and you can drive it and it can stop and it can run into things and it can display information on an LED screen. And we've given those to kids and we say, hey, here's your robot. It's already built. All you gotta do is program it now. So now that focus has moved from the engineering side into the programming side, and we're still tangible, right? And there's a lot of ways to do that. We've seen kids at Atkins using microbits, and that's another great product for students to be able to see the tangibility of what they're doing. When you excite them with tangibility, the intangible things become a lot more tasty, a lot more interesting for kids to take that bite into. So that's something we're really proud of. Of course, we're using drones. We use Lego robots at the at the middle school level. We're also taking a look at some underwater robotics opportunities for some of our campuses. It's really exciting. It's a fun little build that you can get from things that are mostly found at a Home Depot or a Lowe's. And I'm really excited to see what that looks like. And I really want robots to take over our aquatic center because we're like, why not? If people can swim, robots should be able to swim too, right? So being able to make those connections between something that's on the screen and something that moves around in the world is a great arena for that. Our local area is showing a high demand for drone work right now. And I don't know how many of our listeners are looking at drones in their communities right now or not, or if you're starting to hear that talk, but everybody's using drones. You can actually hire a drone to come out and do real estate footage of a house that you're trying to sell. You get charged by the square foot. You can buy packages to have your home advertised so that people can look at the home that you're trying to sell. And a high school student can do that. A high school student with enough business savvy to set up a website, run a little web-based store, and fly a drone with a 107 pilot's exam can do that. And you can be earning while you're in college or while you're working some other job. It could be a great side hustle for teachers. So that's something that's exciting, right? There's something exciting to talk about. There are drones currently participating in research. I love to talk about drones like they're people, right? So I have some drones that are participating in research. There are drones with other groups participating in research related to the viability of moving organs with drones. And that, of all things, is in conjunction with airspace over railways. And so that's an exciting area that Lubbock has been a part of. I know that Brownfield, to give a shout out to a neighboring district, Brownfield is looking at building a strong drone program. I'm eager to talk to them about how that's going and what they think of their curriculum. Currently here, we are able to offer the Part 107 exam to our AV production kids. That's something we're also building into our robotics program because that drone and unmanned flight program of study is going to be regional for Region 17 SOUP, working on that application. And so we'll be able to offer that opportunity to kids and to teachers here. So if you can name an industry, I can tell you where they're using drones. And that's kind of exciting about, like, you could test me and I'll tell you where they're using them.
Yeah, for sure. I was so surprised to hear how many different industries this we've talked. Construction being the biggest one. Of course, that's my background, and that was not a thing, obviously, when I was there. But reached out to some of my friends that were, job superintendents. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we use them daily." I have a nephew that works for a big firm that's building a job in Frisco, and he's the first thing he did was got his 107 because that's just such an integral part of their career now.
It really is awesome. We have letters of support from construction companies, real estate companies, organ donation firms, secondary education we're looking at. And here's the cool thing about drones. Drones were always going to be an amazing thing because it's a tool for gathering data. Most other people see it as a tool to fly, something fun to do, something that allows you to be part of aeronautics. But really, when you look at it, it's something that gathers data. So if you were talking to me about data gathering from the sky 10 years ago, I would have talked to you about GIS. We talked about satellite imagery and then getting all of that data. But then very quickly, the programming caught up to it so that all of that GIS data could be measured on the pixel level. So one of the projects that we had kids here at the ATC working on with our GIS program was to look at satellite data of a cemetery in Lubbock, analyze the trees in the winter to see which one of them had mistletoe and which ones didn't, so they could develop a program, which of course a cemetery is not very big, but you can upscale that to an entire region. That was super exciting. And so that GIS technology, that spatial imagery, the ability to look at data on the pixel level, and then the advancements in machine learning and AI now make drones even more relevant because people on a lot of different levels can go gather that information and then turn around and use it to make decisions. So Texas Tech University has a drone program, and their students at their highest levels, at their graduate levels, are learning about gathering that data and then how to use it scientifically, how to use it for engineering. So it's an exciting time with drones.
How important is data, understanding, data evaluation and those kind of things? How important is that in the computer programming world?
Right. So 10 years ago, I heard someone say that every person walking around today is 2,500 pieces of data. Right, just because you've been on the internet, because you've been in a doctor's office and you've had your records digitized, because you make phone calls with telemarketers and you talk to people. anytime you get an online service, right? Today, obviously, that number's got to be a lot higher because of all of the trackers and the merchandising data that we have. But it's extremely important, and even small business owners can benefit from being able to look at their sales data and learn about their customers from their sales data. So let's talk about a database for a second. It's a storage container for data. If you don't have a lot of data in your container, then it's easy to see what you have, right? You could spend a few hours or a few days manually picking through. If you have some database skills, maybe you can use SQL or you can use Access. Goodness gracious, that's
Please
really
don't.
old.
No,
Yeah,
no.
please don't. But I know that there's still people out there in education that like Access is what we teach. But if you can understand a small enough set of data, you can get the information you need. You can ask it questions with a query. But when data gets really large, this is where the world becomes very interesting. So when you look at machine learning, you might be taking data from Twitter and you're doing something called sentiment analysis, where you look at all of the tweets that come through an area in a period of time about a certain topic, and you can learn about sentiments from people who have who are in different geographic places, people who have different jobs, and people who associate with other kinds of people. So it's a different kind of data analysis because you go in and you use machine learning to look for trends that you aren't expecting. So you're saying, I don't know what our data says. It's way too big. So machine learning lets you look at that. And then when you combine that machine learning idea with natural language AI and you start talking about ChatGPT-4 and Bard, the landscape becomes wide open to a lot of possibilities. And the last 12 months have been very exciting in that regard.
So if you've listened to the news or anything like that, you all you hear about is, Chat GPT, AI is going to take over the world, Terminator's on its way, Skynet, everything.
Yeah.
You hear all these things, and it's one of those things that we're going to have to learn to live with, for one. But it's how we use it is what's going to define what this actually is. And in education, it's becoming a big deal because, students can cheat on tests or write their own papers and whatever else, but it's also going to be used as a tool for good. Mm-hmm. How are we prepping students, or how we look at and perceiving to prep students to be able to use these types of AI devices, or machine learning is what they actually are, but machine learning devices for the benefit and good? Mm-hmm. And how are we prepping students for that in Lubbock ISD?
Right. So large language learning systems, like when you're looking at Bard and you're looking at ChatGPT-4, they provide you the opportunity to ask a program a question and get an answer, right? And to find out what that computer knows or how it would think about it. So to make Randall happy, I actually asked Bard. I got in on Bard when they first allowed the public to look at Bard about a year ago. And I asked him, hey, Bard, how would you build a cabinet? How do you build kitchen cabinets? And I did that because my dad was in the same industry and I wanted to see what he said. And sometimes it looked like he was building a frequently asked questions site. Other times it looked like he was building a manual or verbiage that you might hear in a PowerPoint presentation. And other times you could see him researching and coming up with information. So he went through this iteration where he came up with a plan of building cabinets, but he decided that the composite materials, were going to be cheap and not very sturdy. So he revised the materials that he chose, and he ended up landing on maple. I say he's not gendered, by the way. It's just like to say he. Not that I'm an expert in gender assignments or anything like that, but it's just verbiage,
it's a computer.
Right? It's a computer, right? It might be a she tomorrow. Who knows? Right. But yeah, so Bard does that, and he's like, oh, I want to use maple now, and then goes through. And so it's interesting to watch. You have to pay to be able to do that much language and watch him work, but it was really fascinating to watch the program go through that. So in education, really, we broke that huge egg for AI over the summer when everybody went to conferences and everybody's talking about these tools that are AI based. I think the favorite one that I'm using right now in grad school is Grammarly, actually. Mm-hmm. It's actually, if you pay for the paid version, it will help you write stronger sentences that are not just grammatically stronger, right? They'll provide suggestions that say wording like this would make the sentence sound more confident. I'm like, oh, down with more confident. That's good.
I need that in my life.
Right? I need a little more confidence in my life. Not that I'm probably not, but apparently Grammarly not so. And so that's an exciting positive, right? Because Grammarly's not going to write the paper for you. But if you're using a passive tense with your verbs, Grammarly's going to catch it, and they'll catch things like that more often than your typical grammar fixing in like Google Docs or in Microsoft Word. So that's pretty exciting. Wolfram Alpha, of course, there's a lot of people sitting out there saying Wolfram Alpha's been out there a lot longer. Like, yeah, you're right, it has. And now we have a lot of different things that can even write code. Bard is getting to the point where it'll be like Claude, where it can write code on its own. There's a lot of research going into Bard. And of course, ChatGPT-4 had some of that capability before. But in terms of students cheating, this is where I feel like you'll never take the human out of the educator.
Right.
So I know I've heard a lot of people say, soon we will never need human educators, right? Computers will just educate our kids. And I'm here to say, one, no, because a computer can't encourage them to sit down in a chair and continue to try and encourage them and tell them that they believe in them. But two, you need that human input to make sure the kids are using tools the way they should. I always told my new teachers a pencil was a tool. Right. And the first time a kid drew on a desk or stuck somebody with a pencil, we didn't take the pencils away and deny them the capability of using those. We taught them how to use pencils. Cell phones and computers are the same way. And so now we're living in a world where AIs are present. And so there are ways to do that, right? There really are ways to think creatively about how you're interacting with your students. And if you have to interact with them in a world where we have AIs, it's time to start thinking about, what does my assignment mean and how easy is it to duplicate when I ask a student to do an assessment? So it'll be a fun landscape, but we are literally on the horizon, peeking over at every new day where artificial intelligence and education collide. But those presentations, again, like I said, they hit over the summer, and we have teachers coming back this fall doing it. So it's definitely not going away. I don't think that it is completely scary, and I don't think it's completely the solution to everything, but it is definitely exciting.
You know, one of the first things I saw, which was, I didn't know how to feel about it at first, but then we had some teachers that were using AI to write their lesson plans.
Yes.
And at first I was like, well, that's cheating. That's crap.
I had to write them by myself.
And
Lazy.
But it's like, okay, if you can write a decent lesson plan, but then you could use AI and write a well-written, rigorous lesson plan, why wouldn't you? I mean, It's like, it's a tool like anything else. You know, we use different tools in construction than we used to. We use skill saws rather than hand saws because they're more efficient and they're faster and they do a better job, right? And so this is no different. And I think part of that is, you know, maybe it's old guys like me that have to get past that mentality of, well, you know, we're cheating. Well, no, we're getting better. We're being more efficient, you know.
And it was like, whenever this summer I was asked to make a presentation for Google 101. You know, for new teachers coming in that don't know the Google Suite. And I got on ChatGPT and I was like, oh, let's try this and see what it does. And so I went in there and I said, I need a presentation about 30 minutes long that it involves every product in the Google Suite. And it wrote out this thing. And it gave me literally slides and how long I should spend on each slide. And I was like, okay, I need it written down to a 6th grade level. And then, but I need to add this in there, still 30 minutes. And it redid all the slides. And so I had this outline of what I should talk about, what I should put on the slides, and how to implement it, and how long. I mean, it was really cool. I mean, I was like, okay, I can see how this could be a good thing.
For me as a presenter, I like to spend time on delivering the product, right? And so what I find, the minutia and the thing I get so frustrates me like no end is that minutia of developing, like writing the presentation or whatever that looks like. And like, this is a way to have at least a good skeleton and then I can focus on how I'm going to deliver this to my audience. And so again, that's just one of those things.
And you can even take it to, you know, you have this outline. Now, how am I going to make it visually appealing? How am I going to make it entertaining and engaging? Where you're not really as worried about the content at that point. You know the content, and it's already organized for you. How are you going to make it better? And so it's not taking the human element out. It's just improving the human element because it's making you worry about other things that you didn't worry about before. And it's going to be interesting in the next few years.
And I think it's helping the human element to be efficient. But we have to remember that in a lot of ways, when we're using an AI to make a human more efficient, it's almost like saying you're using about 3 to 5-year-old to help you become more efficient. Because if you've ever worked with machine learning, you know that there's a training phase and a testing phase. So we give these algorithms a set of data to look at, and we let them train. We let them learn the similarities and the differences in the data, and then we do some testing to see how well it learned. And the testing comes from the same set of data. So whenever our large language learning models are doing the same thing and they're interacting with people, they're still learning. They're still becoming more proficient at the things that we need them to do, and they're growing a little bit. So when we look at a model that maybe hallucinates and gives an incorrect answer, that's part of the learning too, right? Which brings us back around in a circle to education. So if you're like a seasoned educator, right, but you've got a stack of new lesson plans on a topic for something that you didn't know you were going to have to teach, brilliant, right? It's a brilliant framework because you're going to go in and clean it up. You're going to know what's going to work. You're going to look at some of the timing and go, oh, I really know I'm going to need longer than that or shorter than that. And you're going to clean it up. But then we also have to talk to new teachers. And we always say that the next youngest group of teachers that come in, they know all the technology and that's what they want to use, right? And we want to honor that. But what happens when a new teacher comes in and they have a lesson plan developed for them from an AI, but they don't know how to evaluate?
Right.
And that shows us that need for human mentorship with teachers to say, hey, that's great. And I love that you have a backbone. Let's talk about that reflective part of building a lesson at the end where you've identified your audience, you know their needs, you've built their lesson, you've gathered materials and technology, you've taught it, and now you're going to reflect. Let's reflect on how that went and how well the lesson met the reality to see how you want to do this the next time. And so again, that's another application where you say, we're not going to lose human teachers, right? We can't. Right. We just can't because our AIs are toddlers and they're not quite there yet. Not ready to be human beings quite yet.
And the thing is it's always going to continue to learn and grow. And that's the thing about machine learning is that it's going to adapt and change to whatever we need it to do. And especially in education, I mean, in education, we know is super, data driven, and it's going to be education more efficient, like not even like teaching, but on the back end of knowing what works best for students, what classes are going to be good for students, scheduling, all those things. It's going to be one of those things that's, it will eventually just, like you said, efficiency. It's going to make the human element more efficient, and we can focus on things that really do matter, and which is the student itself. And it's like you said, AI is not going to replace the teacher because AI doesn't care enough. It's not going to be like there, it's not Baymax over here, but it's there to give you information to help you, but it's not there to coddle you.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And it may even try to approximate those elements. I love to play with AIs and ask them, this will sound philosophical, but I like to ask them if they're aware. Like, are you self-aware? Do you know that you're an AI? And I love to see the responses and the extended conversations to see if you can convince them about something that they weren't initially trained to handle. Can you say, well, if it means you're human, that you have feelings, if those two things go together, do you have feelings? And are you human if you do have feelings? Do you have an opinion on something specific? So they're a lot of fun to talk to. They're a lot of fun to play with. But, that's part of the creativity of AI. Because if you've ever encountered a human problem, then at some point, if you're a techie, you've tried to solve it with technology. And that's what we want our students to do whenever they're in engineering, or if they're in robotics, or if they're programming, or if they're in a welding shop. They're solving human problems with technologies. And that's what career and technical education is about.
For sure. And I think that's, when you talk about that excitement, to be able to introduce things that are cutting edge like AI, those are the things that when you're talking about computer programming, that we used to call computer science. I love that we're rebranding it.
Yes.
I took computer science when I was in school. We did basic.
Oh, that's a little back in the day.
That's a while back. Super cool. I met my wife there. Best thing ever happened to that class.
In basic class.
What a great story.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, totally. I mean, that, just that whole concept of keeping the kids on the forefront of what's happening in the world today. And I know we've talked about how rich our industry connections are here at LubbockISD, and I know those guys are in the same way. They're like, hey, this is what's coming. This is what we need to know, what we need to focus on. Same thing with drones. That's where that drive has come from. So. Yeah,
and IT and computer programming pretty much hit every aspect of life today.
They do.
We can't survive right now in society the way it's built without it. And to redevelop and reimagine and change and grow a class or a career pathway for these kids to make sure that we still have those highly trained kids going into industry to make sure that we can continue to lead our life along is invaluable. It's like having a plumber, having having an electrician and, the doctors, whatever. It's in the same thing. They are the same they're essential. They're essential careers that if we want to continue working and continue doing what we're doing, we have to have them.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely.
And they don't work in separated houses anymore. So 10, 15 years ago, if you needed a website built, you might hire somebody. You would go ahead and contract them out. But today, what you find are people is a business that has somebody that went and got training. Maybe they sent them for training for something like basic level scripting or how to build a website instead of hiring out. And so now it's becoming more important for people to have those skills as members of the company rather than the company hiring somebody that is maybe necessarily an IT expert. So there's a lot of opportunity.
So much crossover, yeah, definitely in all our departments for sure. And I'm excited about that program coming here to the center too,
I am too.
because of that crossover. I think it's going to be amazing. So,
I'm just excited to see where it all goes and watch the programs grow. You know, bringing in drones, to learning AI, all the great things in information technology that we're doing here and that are going to be happening across education across the state. Marcy, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I've had a great time, and this is a fun podcast.
It is.
thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.